Hello, I'm Dr. Morton Rabinowitz. With me is my colleague, Don Pippins. We're going to give you a little bit of background and some information on EGMT 607, Marketing for Engineers.
Now, before you get too far there, Mort, I think we ought to introduce each other, and I'll let them know. I'll let the class know who you are. Mort was the director of the engineering management program for many years, and he's an associate dean. Is that correct? Is that the right title, right? Of the engineering department, and he retired from DuPont about 10 years ago, and recently retired from Drexel. Only guy I know who's got 2 retirements. And I'll come back to that point in a minute because it's important about his experience with many industries. His career with DuPont spanned many decades. Oh, only 3, I think, right?
Yeah.
And that time he's been a research engineer for at the DuPont Experimental Station, and perhaps many of you don't know the significance of that. I mean, DuPont spends probably $1 billion a year in research, and it's kind of like the Bell Labs of the DuPont company. He was working there designing and developing pilot plants, which gave him a lot of contact with customers. And within a few years, he clearly recognized that he'd rather be in contact with customers, and he's had a lot of experience that's well, just let me give you a couple examples. He was a key element of a team that introduced Teflon to sensors and auto emissions, right? It's a major market for the DuPont company now. And right after September 11th, he was involved with a team that interviewed about a large number of first responders about the needs for protective apparel. And I could go on about the great number of market opportunities, but I just wanted to give you those 2 examples. And it's given him real world understanding of customers, and that's one of the great strengths I think he can bring to this course. He began his engineering career, got a BS right here. He's a Drexel Dragon in chemical engineering, and then went on to Michigan to get a PhD in chemical engineering. Personally, I know Mort has a tremendous amount of experience to share, and y'all will be delighted with this course. Back to my earlier point about his lengthy career. It's unlikely that many of you will have the opportunity to spend your entire career with a major corporation the same way that Mort and I have. So I thought it'd be instructive if Mort, why did you spend so long with the same company?
That's a great question. Because clearly, one always has chances to change employers. As you already mentioned to the folks listening and watching, I had a very early opportunity to start to interact with customers and potential customers when I was developing and running pilot plants, because we were making stuff that basically had to be tested in the real world. And I really enjoyed it. And so I asked if it was possible for me to get more of this kind of experience. DuPont was very accommodating. But I think what kind of comes to the fore is that every couple of years I had a chance to be exposed to new markets, new potential opportunities, new group of customers, new kinds of needs, new kinds of products that existed or maybe didn't exist. And I found this to be incredibly stimulating. So I kind of never got tired.
Yeah, and that was exactly what kept me there too. Every year or 2 or 3 years, I'd find myself in a new industry, in a new business with a new market, and that's been the keystone to my experience with the company. I just thoroughly enjoyed spending 34 years with the DuPont company.
Well, we've kind of had the same 10 years with DuPont, and he's admitted that just how long he's been there. I think it's only fair for me to at least reciprocate the professionalism of Don and introduce his background. He's a mechanical engineer from Georgia Tech, and even though he's not a Drexel Dragon, Ramblin' Wrecks are more than fairly good engineers. He's also a member of the American Marketing Association, the American Society.
I don't know if I'm. What do you mean? I'm a Drexel Dragon.
You are now. and the American Society for Engineering Management. In fact, as Don has just reminded me, he joined the engineering management faculty several years ago after retiring from DuPont. His career there was focused on new product and new business development, not real different from mine, although we didn't really cross paths at DuPont. Okay, the range of industries and applications gives him strong perspective on what really works. And he points out strategy and tactics are critically linked. Okay. His concept comes from a focus on customer needs and wants. And there's going to be a great deal of emphasis on that in EGMT 607.
Yeah, I just let me just emphasize that point about strategy and tactics being critically linked. You know, I've known so many vice presidents in the DuPont company who think that the strategy never changes, and that you know, but the fact is, if your customers or your competitors have blocked you, or if you don't have the resources to execute your plan, you don't have a strategy. And that all comes from a focus on your customers' needs, which is a key element of this course. And that's really
Right.
the core aspect of what we'll do with engineering management,
Right.
marketing for engineers.
Yeah, and you'll see that'll be the primary focus. I also want to just touch on some of Don's experience out there in the real world. He's been responsible for composites in automotive and aerospace applications, along with carbon fiber, glass, Nomex, and now familiar Kevlar. His customers included Boeing, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics. He's also got a background, much more extensive than mine, in consumer marketing. And it was in residential construction with Corian, the familiar countertopping, granite and engineered stone. And his major customers there were big national builders and big box hardware stores like Lowe's and Home Depot.
Hey, you know, I got a point to add there. You know, when I was calling on Boeing, I used to think that those purchasing agents were the hardest men and women on the planet. But I found out when I moved into the construction industry that they all went to school in Atlanta, and you know, they were students of the Home Depot purchasing agents.
That must have been quite an experience. Okay, and you thought you knew all about Atlanta from Georgia Tech, right? Okay. One very, very key point about Don. His fellow marketers at DuPont recognized his accomplishments with this very, very wide range of customers, and he was awarded DuPont's Global Marketing Excellence Award not once, but 3 times. Nicely done, Don. And I'm certainly confident that the lessons that he has learned, focusing on those real customer needs, are going to help you succeed in this course.
So, Mort, moving on, let's, you know, we've talked about these courses a lot of times, and you know, you've described them as being independent, right? R&D management 1 and 2, and in marketing for engineers. But there's a thread that goes through them that makes them connect. You want to talk about that? Just
Sure,
a little bit?
Don. Yeah, I'll get right to the point. Okay, Engineering Management 607 is really about learning to identify needs that customers or potential customers have that are either poorly met or frankly are unmet. The second course in the sequence, EGMT 605, which is the first course in R&D management, that basically helps you prioritize among all these unmet and poorly met needs as to finding ones that your organization is really best equipped to work on. Okay. The third course, which is R&D Management 2, is basically commercial development. It's how do you convert your technology successes and addressing these unmet and poorly met needs into invoice sales, because that's what's going to keep your organization around 10 years from now, 20 years from now, decades from now.
So one of the things I've taken out of these courses, Mort, is that it's really, really difficult for senior managers to pay attention to their customers. Their day-to-day activities are, you know, they're just overwhelmed by the board of directors, their financial markets, you know, the regulators. So those businesses, those business leaders who've been successful, certainly in recent years, have been defining themselves based on what their customer needs are. And that's where I think these courses are really key.
Yeah, because those needs will always change with time. They will always evolve.
So you want to describe how the courses are organized, right?
Sure. The course is 10 weeks long. Virtually every week there is a lecture, there's a reading assignment, there may also be a written assignment, and a threaded discussion. There's also probably going to be a course case that begins around week 5, week 6, roughly halfway through the term. It's usually worked on by teams of students. Typical team membership is 2, maybe 3 students. It'll be due at the end of the course, and each element of the course covers carries roughly equivalent weight in the final grade, and that's spelled out in much more detail in the actual syllabus. That's the basic structure. Don, I think you've got some additional key requirements that I think would be good for our students to understand.
Yeah, I do, Mort, and there's 2 aspects of that I really want to focus on. One of them is the assignments, and the other one's about the discussions, the weekly assignments and the weekly discussions. The assignments really want to follow what I've come to call role-playing for real life. It's a simulation of what you would really do. This is going to be one of the few opportunities you get to act and behave as a future engineering and R&D leader before you actually take on that role. So every assignment will be an MS Word document. It'll be written as though you're addressing the senior management of your business, right? You're going to be taking on the role of a vice president of marketing or R&D or engineering, whatever is appropriate for that particular assignment. And you're going to write it as though you're writing to your boss. At least I know when I had to talk to my boss, I got a lot more focused about what I was saying, and I'm hoping that that's going to be the same thing for you. What we're looking for, what Mort and I will be looking for, the key aspect of this, of getting a good grade on these assignments, is critical thinking. And you got to take the material that's in the reading assignment, in the lecture, and you're going to be convincing your senior management of a point or trying to make a recommendation and convince them of it. The other pieces are threaded discussion, and I think there's really 2 elements of the threaded discussion. The first one, each week you're going to make an initial individual posting, and it's going to be backed up by an independent resource. You're going to go to the Drexel Library, you're going to go to the internet, you're going to use a textbook, but you're going to put a link in that posting that allows your fellow classmates to find the link, and then you have to summarize it for them. It gets a little burdensome if you have to read the details of every one of them. But then you have to select 2 of those and comment on them. Provide some critical thinking, some analysis about what was said. Now, the best grades are going to come to the guys who do the greatest work on the discussions. I guess the final statement about overall structure of the course that I have anyway is these are going to be graded alphanumerically, right? We're not going to give you a numerical grade for these assignments and discussions and course cases. It's just too difficult to figure out whether you got a 93 or a 96. So
yes.
Now that really covers most of everything I had to say about those aspects. Was there anything you wanted to add, Mort, before we wrap this up?
Don, I think you've covered all the salient points. Speaking for both Don and myself, we are very, very much looking forward to having this course, and particularly to not just our interactions with you as individuals and as teams on the course case, but also for your interactions with each other. So good luck to everyone. We're looking forward to the beginning of the course.